Hello and welcome to the final episode of 2020 for Catching Up with the Backs. This week I have the privilege of being joined by someone who played for the Silverbacks in their inaugural season, and that is forward Andrew Ebbett. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm just it's nighttime over here in Switzerland, and and good to be on with you. It's been a while.
We'll go back to that first season. We're also, of course, going to talk about your very successful 14-year professional career. You played in the AHL, in the NHL, in Switzerland, represented Canada at the Olympic Games and in the Spengler Cup as well. So we'll talk about all that, but I do want to know, first, just tell us a little bit more. You said you're in Switzerland, of course. What have you kind of been up to the past few weeks? What's the COVID situation kind of like over there?
We're on, I guess, a lockdown light over here. It's you can still go out on the town, but there's a lot of rules and regulations in place, and we're wearing masks everywhere. And we'll find out Friday if we're going into full lockdown or not, but a lot of people are hoping not. But yeah, I'm not playing currently right now this year, so I've just been really enjoying my time over in Switzerland. It's been nice to just, for once, I don't have a job, so I've been doing a lot of hiking. I did some snowshoeing last weekend, and recently actually took up snowboarding. So I'm learning some new sports and new tricks out here.
What a place to learn snowboarding, though, over in Switzerland. That's probably pretty nice.
It's funny. Well, I grew up in Vernon, and I lived so close to Silver Star, and my parents always said, like, no skiing, no snowboarding, just you don't want to get hurt for hockey. And I always said, once I'm done playing, or if I'm not playing, that's something I want to do. And so I've had a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm in the Swiss Alps. I'm 45 minutes, an hour away from snowboarding up in the Swiss Alps, so it's pretty cool.
Awesome. Let's go back to, I just want to start the year before you joined the Silverbacks, because you played for the Sycamoose Eagles. You put up like 51 goals in 54 games there. What do you remember from your season playing for the Eagles?
It was so much fun. That was my first year where, I lived away from home, and I had actually graduated a year early, so I wasn't going to school. And we had such a fun team there. We had so many good guys, and I think I always tell people that I don't think I would have been where I was today without that year in Sycamoose. Like, that really kind of toughened me up to play a year in juniors and learn from the older guys how to play junior hockey and how to get ready for that kind of next level. And we had a great group of guys and really good team, and I still keep in touch with probably 5 to 10 people from Sycamoose that I still am in contact with constantly.
Now, the next year, Salmon Arm, the Silverbacks' first season of existence, Gary Davidson and Andy Murray kind of brought the team here. Where did you fit in? Like, who got in contact with you and just kind of brought you to the Silverbacks?
I think it was mostly Gary Davidson. It's just watching me in Sycamoose, and I think talking with the management and the coaches there. And I think we had a spring camp before the team was picked, and I ended up having a really good weekend. And Gary said, "Hey, we're going to sign you." So he's like, "I want to make you the first player that the Silverbacks sign," and it was pretty unbelievable. I would think, I was talking with Prince George, and I think with my hometown team, the Vipers in Vernon, and I just couldn't pass up. There was so much excitement in Salmon Arm. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to play for a brand new team, and Gary did such a good job recruiting me, and in the end, I think I made the right decision. What
do you remember most from that first season?
Man, I think it was just the excitement in the city. It was we had the super fans, we call them, and they were there all the time, and people were painting their faces and wearing jerseys and dressing up for every game. And man, the games against the Vipers were, even whether it be in Vernon or Salmon Arm, were incredible for the guys like in our age group to have rivalry games like that. It was so much fun. I got lucky with some great housing family, Brian and Lori Bingham, and it just made for an incredible season.
What was it like for you to play in Vernon then? Of course, the big rival, and you're from Vernon. Do you have any memories from those games?
They were intense. They were. I grew up watching the Lakers win Centennial Cups and the Vipers win Royal Bank Cups, and in that small old Civic Arena, and then they opened up the brand new arena in Vernon. And so we were playing, whether it be in Salmon Arm or Vernon, we were playing in a brand new arena and close to sellouts every night. It was for being an expansion team, I think we put up a pretty good fight, and we were a pretty good rival right from the start.
Looking back, for a team in its first season, you guys were third in the division, in like a 7-team division, which is not bad at all. Do you remember what kind of made you successful, maybe your style? I imagine back then a lot of goals probably were scored.
It was high scoring for sure, and we picked up a goalie at some point. And Chris Clark came in at some point, and once we got a steady number one goalie, I don't know, the guys just really got along really well. We had good chemistry. I remember we had a really good captain in Joey D'Amico. I think he was 19 or 20, and he came in, and for us, he was almost like a 25, 26-year-old, the way he was so mature, and he was able to lead us and keep us composed, and we just kind of had the opinion that who cares if we were an expansion team, let's just go out and play. And I think some teams took us lightly, and we were able to have a good season. So
the first ever playoff series, you guys took on Trail. Do you remember what the atmosphere was kind of like? I mean, you've obviously talked about lots of sellouts and crazy fans, but for a playoff game against Trail, the first playoff game, what was that moment like?
One thing I remember is we dyed our hair purple, the whole team, for the playoffs. So I remember doing that. Inside of our helmets had purple dye in them for the whole playoffs. And I think we were that was the one time that whole season where I think maybe the guys were a little nervous about being an expansion team and first time playoffs, but the atmosphere in the arena was incredible. The fans came out with full support, and I think the guys we were wishing we could have gave a little better effort, and I think we were hoping we were going to win and maybe get to play Vernon in the next round. You ended up heading to Michigan in the NCAA. I just want to know though, from that season with the Silverbacks, what was it about the league and maybe the style of play and that season? What helped you with the transition to the NCAA? I think just the confidence, just knowing that I could play. I mean, growing up in a junior A city, and I always looked up to all those guys playing for the Vipers, and when I was young. So to actually play in the BCHL and then do as well as I did that year, it gave me the full confidence that I could make the step into the college game. What do you remember about the city, like playing in the city and the community, stuff that you guys did around here? What stands out with the off-ice stuff? I mean, we had incredible housing families. I mean, I didn't hear anyone ever complaining that whole first year. Just for a new city, for what Gary had to do to get everybody and talk to how many housing families to get them to take in 22 guys into their homes with kids and families. It was pretty impressive. And then just it was small city, but it was like everywhere you went, everyone was so excited that they had a junior A team. And yeah, just a lot of Tim Hortons trips, a lot of Boston pizza, and it was we had a good time. We had some good memories. You said your Eagles teammates, there's some you still keep in contact with. Is that the same for some of your Silverback teammates? Some of them I wish I could more, but I'm still really close with Adrian Wiedemann and Kevin Wiedemann from Sycamoose and Salmon Arm, and Brent Shaw. I get in touch with him through group chats once in a while, and Cody Bostock. He lives in Vernon now, but he's a Salmon Arm. That was awesome to have like him and Trevor Gallant, who were Salmon Arm minor hockey products. To have them as part of the Salmon Arm Silverbacks that first year was pretty special. You did head to Michigan the next year, but before we talk about those 4 years there, how did the scholarship happen? Like, when did it happen, and who first got in contact? Credit goes to Gary Davidson. I always tell people I didn't do very much. That was him, and I remember having a good start, and then I went to Michigan. And I was actually supposed to go to visit to Brown University the next week, and Gary called me into his office, and he said, "You're not going to Brown next week." And I was like, "Well, I already told them I was." And Gary said, "No, Michigan you already went to Michigan. Red Berenson's a coach. They already offered you a scholarship. You're taking that. You're going to Michigan." And so made it pretty easy because I really loved my weekend in Michigan and going there, and so it was an easy recruitment trip for me, and I owe a lot of credit to Gary, and Billy Powers was the assistant coach at Michigan, and those two pretty much did all the legwork, and I just played. Wow, and what a program too, and what a 4 years you had. Can you just describe your freshman season? What was the transition like from the Silverbacks then to the Wolverines? Well, that was a little difficult because I actually was supposed to play one more year in Salmon Arm, and Mike Camilleri had left in the middle of probably end of July, start of August, left Michigan a year early to sign with the LA Kings. So Michigan called me and asked if I was ready to come, and I'd already been out of high school for 2 years. And Gary and Rylan Firster, they really wanted me to stay one more year, and we're going to have a really good team, and they did have a really good team either way that year. But I just thought I was ready. I was 19, and I was ready to move on and get back into school. I figured 3 years without high school and going into college would make the academics a little tougher. So it was a quick transition. Maybe that was for the best. I did it all of August, and by the end of August, I was already in Michigan preparing for class and the first year of school.
That freshman season, I mean, you guys won a CCHA championship, made the national semifinal, an overtime 3-2 game, lost to Minnesota. But what do you remember most from that first season?
Just, being at Michigan, getting to put on that helmet with the wings on them, and man, we made it all the way. We had such a good team, and we made it all the way to the Frozen Four. And if Minnesota didn't have Thomas Vanek on their team, we probably would have won a national championship. But we had a really, really strong team, and I'd never really spent too much time in the U.S. So for me, it was a whole new experience. And the campus life. I mean, you think of University of Michigan, you think huge school, and it is, but it's a very small campus feel, which was a lot of fun. A lot of people that you meet the first semester there, you end up being friends with for the next 4 years. So it was incredible, great 4 years that I had.
You guys did end up in your third year. You won another CCHA championship. The regular season record was pretty impressive, 23-3-2. I just want to know, was your freshman season winning the championship or your third year winning CCHA? Which one stands out more, if any of them do?
Probably the third year, because I played a bigger part in that, and man, that third year team was the best team we had in 4 years. I mean, if you go down the roster, I don't know how many guys played in the NHL from that team, but it might be double digits. It was a pretty special team, and we had a 3-0 lead in the quarterfinals to Colorado College, and halfway through the game we ended up losing 4-3. And I talked to a lot of friends, and they all say like that team was so stacked and such a national championship caliber team, and with the NCAA's, it's one game elimination, and that's what happens. But that was that was quite the team that we had that year. It was disappointing at the end.
The next year, you were named captain, though, for Michigan. What did that honor mean to you?
That was really special, because I know I had the backing of the guys on the team, and to have Red Berenson, a man of his stature, to name you captain of the Wolverines, and to see the guys that have worn the C on that team, it was really special feeling for me. That's the one jersey that I really hold dear to my heart, and it's can't put it into words sometimes, but it's pretty cool to walk around campus and people can talk to you or look at you and they know that you're the captain of the hockey team. You
mentioned lots of NHLers from those teams. Just some of them here. Jeff Tambellini coached in Trail last season. He, of course, played a big part in those teams. Matt Hunwick, Eric Nystrom, Jack Johnson, Andrew Cogliano, TJ Hensick. I'm probably missing some, but from those guys, are there anyone who you're really close with? Maybe some of the guys who you played a few seasons with?
Well, that year, technically, me and Eric Nystrom and Mike Brown were the third line on our team. So that kind of shows you what kind of roster we had. We were known as the checking line that year. So, but I got the chance to play with Mike Brown in a couple NHL cities, and I mean, I keep in touch. We do a golf trip every year. There's, I think, 11 of us that played together at least 3 of those years. Matt Hunwick, Kevin Porter. I mean, I lived with Kevin Porter for 3 summers the last couple of years when I go back to Michigan and train. And so it's a tight bond, the Michigan hockey connection.
Lastly, about Michigan here, obviously the bonds with the players. Is there anything else, though, that stands out when you look back at your 4 years there and you said how special it was? What else will you remember?
I mean, I ended up two of my best friends were on the team too. The one of them, Noah Rudin, he was a backup goalie for us 4 years in a row, and we lived together. I mean, I lived in Michigan from 2002 when I went to college, and I didn't move out till 2018. So I spent all my off seasons there. After every NHL season, I went back there to live and to train and get ready for the next year. So it's a pretty big piece of me, I think, is Ann Arbor.
Now, after your time at Michigan, you signed a pro contract, July 2006, signing with the Ottawa Senators. What did it feel like to sign your first professional contract?
It was really cool. I owe a lot to Red Berenson for that too. I think he's the one. He won't admit it, but I think he's the one that got me the American League contract in Binghamton, and got me the invitation to go to Ottawa Senators camp. And it was just to get in that locker room and skate with those guys. And I got like Daniel Alfredson and Jason Spezza, Phillips, and Wade Redden was there. It was cool, and then to play in Binghamton, I didn't know what to expect. I was kind of an extra, I think, going into it, and then a guy ended up getting hurt, and I got my chance to play on one of the top two lines, and kind of the rest is history. I ended up having a really good year and being able to sign with Anaheim at the end of the season. Yeah,
AHL All-Star in your first pro season. What do you think? What ingredients went into you just taking it and running with it?
Yeah, it was, I wasn't getting paid very much. I think I was making the league minimum in the American League, and I was considering weekly how I was going to live the next summer, like I was going to have to get another job. I kept telling myself, like, if I don't have a good season, I'm going to need a summer job that doesn't involve playing hockey. Like, I won't be able to spend my time getting ready. So I was getting close. I think the coach told me at Christmas that he had planned to send me to the East Coast League at 2 or 3 games in, because I was a healthy scratch and hadn't played. And then one of my good buddies ended up getting hurt, which gave me the opportunity, and I went in and just started scoring right away. It just was a good fit with my line, and we weren't a very good team. I think we finished last that year in the American League, but for me, it gave me the opportunity to play a lot and in all situations.
You mentioned you did, of course, after that, end up signing with the Anaheim Ducks the next season. Stellar numbers again in the American League, but let's talk about your NHL debut, February 22nd, 2008, against the St. Louis Blues. What do you think of? What do you remember when you think of your NHL debut?
I think of like rushing to the airport from Portland and flying across the country and making it, and then my parents getting the phone call from me, and they both flew from, I think they were in Vernon, so they flew out of Kelowna and made it, and then I got to start. I got to start the game with Chris Kunitz and Teemu Selanne. And that was my line for the game, and to take the opening face-off, that was pretty cool. I think I have a picture of my parents getting interviewed during the game on Fox Sports, and that's probably the picture I remember. Actually, I don't really remember much of the game. I just remember my mom and my dad getting interviewed, and they both had big smiles.
Now, the 2008-2009 season, I feel like it seemed to be a big one. You had 32 points with the Ducks in just 48 games, a pretty good playoffs. You played in all 13 playoff games for the Ducks. The team also very, very similar to the Cup-winning team, Anaheim. Of course, Getzlaf, Pronger, Niedermeyer, those guys. I just want to know, though, your first playoff goal, because you did score in round 1, game 2 against the Sharks, who you went on to upset. What was it like to score a playoff goal in the National Hockey League?
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite NHL goals, and I got a couple of big ones in San Jose. For some reason, I played a lot of games in that arena. I always thought maybe one day I would play for the Sharks, because I always played so many times against them. But yeah, it was. We were the 8th seed. We had barely snuck into the playoffs. We had a really good stretch, and San Jose was first in the West. They might have even been first in the league. And yeah, we played like the Ducks, like the same team that they had won the Cup with. We just played strong and physical, and I was playing with Bobby Ryan and Teemu Selanne, and Timo went down the right side and it kind of came around back of the net, and I banked it in off the goalie. Yeah, I'll always remember that goal. It was to beat that team in 6. That was really, really special. And then the Detroit team was incredible, and to take them to 7, and I think Danny Cleary scores with 3 or 4 minutes left in Game 7 to beat us. And you're like, we're this close, but I always remember that was only 2 rounds, and I remember how my body felt. I had sprained my MCL in the Detroit series and kept playing through it. And the guys that have won the Stanley Cup, to go 2 more rounds, to play every second night for 2 months, they earn that party after the Stanley Cup, that's for sure. I
realized here I did, of course, skip over. I went to your first playoff goal, but how about your first NHL goal, which was, of course, before that, January 2nd, 2009. I couldn't find video for this, so if you can you explain your first NHL goal?
Well, yeah, it's on my birthday, actually, my first NHL goal. So wow. I'll remember that. That's pretty cool, and it was on the power play, and I don't know. Yeah, it'd be tough to find video. Maybe it's a Chris Pronger snapshot, I believe, and I tipped it in. And like a few of my goals, I think that everyone went to celebrate with Pronger, and I was in the corner celebrating by myself. But I got credit for the goal, and yeah, to score on first NHL goal on my birthday, it's pretty cool. Yeah,
can only imagine. After that season with the Ducks and that playoff series, you played for a few more NHL teams: Chicago, Minnesota, Arizona. I just want to know kind of the difficulties trying to stick at the NHL level, a few different teams in such a short amount of time. What was that kind of like for you, those couple years where you're in different cities kind of all in a row?
It was a whirlwind. It was that the next year was Anaheim had brought in Saku Koivu, and Randy Carlyle didn't think I was big enough to play third and fourth line. He was more of he had his top 6 guys and his bottom 6 guys, and the bottom 6 were big bruisers, and it didn't work out. And ironically, that's the rest of my NHL career. I played on the third and fourth line only. So I'd never been really traded or released, and so you have to get used to that. And that's the NHL life. You never know when you're going up or going down, or what line you're playing on, and just kind of resiliency. What I learned from it. Just once you go to Chicago, and I knew I was only an injury replacement there, and then I got waived, and Minnesota picked me up. So then you're just thinking, I got to do something to stay. You got to find a way to stick out. And when I went to Minnesota, it was almost like I thought it was my last chance. So I figured if I got waived from them, then I'd probably be in the American League the rest of my career. And I think I scored my first game in Minnesota and got off to a good start, and was able to finish the year out there. And then we couldn't agree on a contract, so I ended up going to Arizona, and then I had played most of the year up there, and then I was on my honeymoon at the time with my ex-wife in Vancouver. I got an email from my agent saying Vancouver wanted to sign me, and I couldn't believe it, because Vancouver, I grew up a Flames fan, but I grew up in BC, so I couldn't believe that I was going to play for the Vancouver Canucks, and so to play 2 years for them was incredible. To live in downtown Vancouver and have friends from high school come to the games, and my family being able to drive to the games, it was awesome.
Any other memories stand out then? Again, representing like your home province in the NHL. Anything from those years stand out?
Well, I had a couple bad injuries that stand out really well, which sucked actually because I was having so much fun playing there and all that. But I guess, playoffs in Vancouver is incredible. We didn't have a very good playoffs, but to be able to skate out for a playoff game at the arena in downtown Vancouver was pretty cool. And a couple overtime goals that I'll always remember. One against San Jose, of course, and one against Calgary. So those for sure stick out. And yeah, just same as like Sam and Armin, like the atmosphere in Vancouver. I used to walk to the game some nights, and we walk on a Saturday night to the game, and people are already tailgating. They're already at the downtown walking around in their jerseys, and to know that they're coming to watch you that night, that's pretty special.
Now, after your time with the Canucks, a couple more seasons in the Penguins organization, but then you made the decision to go over to Switzerland. Can you just talk me through making that decision to leave North America and sign with SC Bern?
I had been talking with SC Bern a couple years, but actually before I went signed with Pittsburgh, I was contemplating going over, and then Pittsburgh had called, and their assistant GM at the time was Jason Botterill, who was a Michigan guy, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to play with, have a chance to play with Crosby and Malkin. That's really what it came down to. I was going to go to Switzerland early, and then to sign with them I had to try it. And I have a lot of good memories from Pittsburgh and Wilkes-Barre, but it was tough. I was living in a hotel in Pittsburgh and a hotel in Wilkes-Barre, and I was just going back and forth every time I was called up or sent down. So after 2 years of living in a suitcase, I had to go. I had to go to Switzerland. I had it in my mind for the last few years, and it looked awesome. The pictures and talking with the GM here, it was an easy decision by then. I wanted to. Here you have no nights in a hotel. You're in your own apartment every night. Travel's easy, and you get to see another part of the world.
On the ice, what was the adjustment like to the European game, the European style? How does it differ, of course, the international ice, but how did you find it different?
It's the bigger ice. It's very fast. Swiss hockey is very fast. It's in between the NHL and the American League. Your top 6 forwards are extremely skilled. Most are very fast. They have tried the NHL. They maybe been in-betweeners like myself between the NHL and AHL, and then your bottom 6 is a lot of younger guys trying to make the next step. So you don't really have that big banging, crashing fourth line. Your fourth line's usually 2 or 3 younger guys who are close to having the skill to be a top 6 guy. So it's fast, exciting hockey, and the fan, like in Switzerland, 11 or 12 of the teams, they sell out usually without Corona going on, but it's sellouts. The fans are loud. Half the team stands up, half the fans stand up throughout the whole game, and it's a lot of fun.
I was going to ask about that then, the atmosphere at European games and big games in particular. Like, is it just rocking the whole game through?
There's no music between whistles. It's the fans standing up, and some of them have drums and they whistle, and it's it's wild. There in Bern, we have the biggest rink in Europe, so it's about just over 17,000, and I think 10,000 of them stand up. They have one side they call the wall, and they get there. It's all open seating, so you get there when the building opens, and in warm-ups they're already chanting and making music and yelling, and they're ready for the game.
That must be pretty cool to play in front of that. Let's talk about a little bit off the ice. Moving to Switzerland, probably a little bit different, like culturally. What kind of stood out to you? Was there anything that surprised you or shocked you with the different way of living?
No, it's a good quality of life. The biggest adjustment actually probably would be on Sundays when everything's closed. There's a few restaurants open, but no grocery stores, no shopping, and so for a hockey player, it's difficult because Sundays is usually your day off. You play Tuesdays and Fridays and Saturdays. So Sundays it's figuring out what you're going to do, but you get used to it. Sometimes when I'm back home now in Arizona, I go shopping on Saturdays because I'm like, oh, the stores are closed tomorrow. Then I have to readjust and be like, oh no, they are open on Sunday here.
So 5 total seasons with SC Bern, 3 championships, and I guess 3 of 4 because last year, of course, COVID ended the season early. Which championship for you is maybe the most memorable, and why?
Yeah, that's it. That's tough. It's probably the first one because when I came to Bern, I played the first 9 games and I broke my leg pretty bad, and I wasn't actually sure if I was going to play again. The doctor told me that he was not sure I was going to play again. He said I was going to have difficulties walking normal again, and I ended up rehabbing and doing everything I could to get back. I could have gone back to North America and gone home and just called it a season, but I stayed here and did the rehab, and I played the last few games of the regular season, and we ended up finishing 8th in the last playoff spot. The second last game of the season, we won to get in, and we ended up beating Zurich, the 1 seed, which they had Austin Matthews on that team that year. We swept them in the first round, and then we won the next 2 series in 5 games, and we won the championship, first Swiss team ever as an 8 seed. So it was we had you name it, we had to go on that year. It was such a mess of a year, and we had a coach fired, and you only can play 4 imports in Switzerland, and you can sign up to 8. We had all 8 cards used up, and so yeah, that was the most memorable season and championship would have been that first one.
Perfect. You also, of course, played at the Spengler Cup for Canada. For those who maybe aren't too familiar with the Spengler Cup, can you just explain first what it is?
Yeah, it's just a big tournament up in the mountains. I mean, I guess if you think of Whistler, it would be like having a big tournament up in Whistler over between Christmas and New Year's, and the championships on New Year's Eve. There's 6 teams. There's Davos, the home team, and then there's 4 club teams from all over Europe. And then Team Canada always has a team where they use guys that play in Switzerland or Sweden, Germany, a couple American League players. And it's just it's an awesome time. It's first class, and they have a tent set outside the arena, and people ski in the mornings, and then they watch 2 games in the afternoon, 1 game in the afternoon, 1 game at night. They have music playing every night. It's a big party festival for a week long, and every game's sold out. The fans are awesome, and it's fun hockey. You have a little bit of systems, but the coaches are pretty much just play. Go have fun, impress the fans, try some new moves if you've got them. Like it's high-paced hockey, and then the championship games at like noon on New Year's Eve. And yeah, I was lucky enough I got to play in 3, and we won 2 of them. So it was we lost in the final my last year, and my first year I didn't get to play because of the broken leg, and it was one of the biggest disappointments because I'd never played for Team Canada before. So the next year when I got that chance, it was unbelievable.
Now, so to win 2 Spengler Cups, I just want to know, it sounds like the games just go play. Was it almost more like to win a Spengler Cup in that scenario? How does that compare to winning kind of a league championship? I know, of course, it's not a whole season, but how does that compare? How did it feel like to win your first Spengler Cup?
Yeah, it was fun. It was just because you had to, for a lot of us guys playing in Europe, like we don't get a chance to play for Team Canada ever. So to get that opportunity to represent your country, and then you're playing over here in different leagues where they don't speak, not all the time, English or something. So no one knows what Junior A hockey, and no one knows where the Salmon Arm Silverbacks are. So you get a chance to talk with the guys. The most fun actually for me is sitting in the locker room and just hearing the stories from the guys before or after the game. And usually you'll have a beer after the game in the locker room after a win, and the guys sit around half dressed and kind of tell stories from their club teams or tell stories from their junior days or college days. And the camaraderie of the Canadian players is a lot of fun. And then when you win, and then everyone has their families there for Christmas, and the kids are wearing Canada jerseys. It's a big family atmosphere, and Team Canada does an amazing job setting it up. 2017-18,
not only did you win a Spengler Cup with Canada, and not only were you MVP in the National League in Switzerland, but you played at the Olympic Games for Canada. So Spengler Cup is one thing. Olympic Games, probably another kind of feeling. I just want to know, when you heard that you were chosen for Team Canada at the Olympics, what first went through your mind?
I did it, I guess. It was, I don't know. At that point, it was more, I had put so much work in, and I was feeling the pressure that I didn't want to tell anybody that I didn't make it. I think I didn't want to have to call my parents or call my buddies back home. And I think everybody was thinking, oh, you have a chance. And I said, yeah, but we have to wait and see. And I didn't want to make the disappointing phone calls. So when I got the call from the guys and Sean Burke and everyone at Hockey Canada, it was such a relief, because it was such a stressful time. We started, I think I played like 100 games that season, including the Olympics and all the preparation tournaments. And we were in Sochi and Helsinki and Riga, Latvia. And then I remember Sean Burke telling me that the Spengler Cup was going to decide pretty much like if I had made the team or not. And so I knew going up, usually you're relaxed at the Spengler Cup and it's like a break and you can have fun, but that tournament was full on stress for me. So, and I had a good tournament and I felt confident that I was going to make the team, but you never know until you get that phone call and you don't know what they're thinking in that room. And I knew I was on the bubble. And when I got the call, I was downtown Bern with some friends. Actually, I was having a beer downtown in the afternoon at one of the small cafes, and I got the call and saw the number was from Calgary, and I knew then I finally made it.
Can you take me through the journey of those Olympic Games? You guys ended up winning a bronze medal, but take me through the tournament as it progressed.
Well, like I said before, the process was so long and stressful, and then the Olympic Games happened, and they said it was going to go by fast, but it went by like a snap of the fingers, and all of a sudden I was on a plane going back to Switzerland to finish our season.
Wow.
But we met in Riga, Latvia, and then we flew as a team to Korea from there. And the first week we just had practices, and we actually were allowed we saw some events and kind of got used to everything. And Team Canada they set up our rooms, like they've had pictures of our family there. They had our bedrooms and blankets set up in Canada gear, and it was really, opening ceremonies was awesome because we had 11 players from my Bern team from Switzerland that were, or 13 actually, I think, that were at the Olympics. So I had 12 of my teammates from SC Bern in the opening ceremonies with me. And then once the tournament started, it was just game mode. I mean, my parents were my family was staying in Seoul, so it was like a 2-hour train ride away. And so they were training back and forth for every game. And so I barely saw them. It was just strictly game mode. And I actually took a Charlie horse real bad in the second game against the Czech Republic, and my leg went black and blue, and I had to miss one game. And I had to take some pain pills to get through the rest of the tournament, but there was no way I was not playing. But we ended up playing Finland in the quarterfinals, and that was one of the toughest games I've ever played, and it was the most intense hockey game I think I played in my career. And we won 1-0, and it was huge. And then we ended up playing so bad in the first period against Germany in the semifinals, and I think the second and third period we were in their zone the entire 40 minutes, and we came up 1 goal short. And one of the most disappointing, probably few hours of my career for sure, because we win that game. We're playing Russia for the gold medal at the Olympics, which I think there's a lot of Canadians, hockey players that dream about something like that. And to miss out on that because we had a bad first 20 minutes was extremely disappointing. But we talked about it, and I think Sean Burke, the general manager, said, "Hey guys, like, we still have a bronze medal to win, and 20 years from now, if you can tell your kids and your grandkids and your family that you won a bronze medal at the Olympics, I think that's worth it." So we turned it around and were able to pull through and beat the Czechs for the bronze, and everyone was happy. There's only two happy teams, they say, the gold medal winners and the bronze medal winners. So yeah. We were lucky enough to be one of those two.
There's a fan question that's similar to this, and it just a little bit more about the Olympic experience. So former Silverback Director of Marketing, Josh Gordon, actually says he remembers meeting you in Pyeongchang, and he just wants to hear a little bit more about your experience. So maybe what the Athletes Village was like, and you mentioned your family, so your family was over there, but what kind of stands out maybe off the ice with your experience in Pyeongchang?
Well, it was you live in like a dorm room. So I had 3 roommates on the team, Derek Roy and Rene Bork and Lyndon Vey. So to hang out with them for 2 weeks in the room, it was pretty cool. And like you're living in the athlete village. So you eat together, and it's weird. You'll be playing, say, Finland in the quarterfinals, and you're having pregame meal in the cafe, and then the Finnish team walks in, and they're sitting 2 tables down from you, and you guys are facing each other 6 hours later. So It's pretty, it reminded me of college a little bit because you get to see, for the junior guys, they didn't get that experience, but you see the other athletes, you see we had the rooms where we'd hang out, so you'd see the figure skaters or you'd see the guys, the bobsled guys, and you kind of chit chat with them. And I mean, for some of those sports, that's their everything. That's what they worked 4 years for. I mean, we worked hard for a year to get there. We have our own league though and our own club team. Like for some of those athletes, that's it. That's their event. They worked 4 years for that. So for me to see it from that perspective was really fascinating for me.
Another fan question, just going to ask here on a different note. So Garrett on Twitter asks, are you a jersey guy, like a jersey collector? Do you have jerseys from your hockey journey, and do you keep mementos? Oh,
I'm not a huge jersey guy. I played with a lot of guys. They'd always get jerseys from the other team on game days, but I was trying to talk to someone the other day. I've got all of my jerseys, I think, except for my Anaheim Ducks jersey, which is my first NHL jersey, but I don't think I ever got it, or maybe someone else has it. I've been meaning to track it down, but that's the one that I'm missing from my own. I don't collect a lot. I have Sidney Crosby's jersey signed. That's one that I had to get done, and then I have a Jamie Benn Dallas Stars jersey signed. So those would be the two NHL ones that I collect.
Just to wrap up here, this has been great so far, but I just want to know your advice perhaps for junior players, as someone who has had a successful professional career. What advice would you kind of tell to younger players here who want to play pro as well?
Well, my nephew's 11 right now, and he's in Cochrane, Alberta, just outside of Calgary. And I tell my sister all the time, just make sure he's having fun. That's like, especially nowadays, I feel like parents and coaches, they put so much pressure on these kids, and especially at a young age. I mean, my parents did such a good job with they just told me to have fun. As long as I wasn't, don't snap your stick, don't break your stick and get mad, don't slam your stick on the ice. Just enjoy the game, have fun, and yeah, don't take no for an answer. I mean, I've been told no plenty of times. I think at every level in my career, I was told I wasn't big enough to play, strong enough to play in Junior B. And then I was told I never played in the BCHL because I wasn't big enough. I mean, the list goes on. Every level I went to, I was told I was too small. So don't take no for an answer. Just keep trying, keep working hard, and really enjoy the game, because you don't know when it's going to end. I've learned that the hard way lately, so you really don't know.
Perfect. No, thank you so much. That's it. Before we run out of the Zoom time, but thank you so much, Andrew, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. That was fun.